right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, Erica, and thank you for tuning in to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Rich Walsh. You can give us a call tonight at 412-575-2600. Brian Batko of the Post-Gazette will be joining me here tonight to co-host the show. And like I said, we're taking your phone calls. There's a number right there. And if you want to check out our live poll of the night, you can see it. All you have to do is scan the QR code. And this is because of the Daytona 500. We were all watching up in the sports department tonight. Could you successfully complete one lap in a NASCAR race? I don't think I can. By the way, William Byron won his second straight Daytona 500. I don't even, was it a good finish? I think. I don't know. I don't like the wrecks. I want to see cars going past each other. I'm not a huge NASCAR fan, Brian, if you couldn't tell.
You don't want to see them changing paint as they're making their moves there. But yeah, when you and the guys in the back and Jared and Steve posed that poll question, my initial instinct was like, yeah, sure, I can sit in the driver's seat and put the pedal to the metal and do what I'm going to do when I leave here to head home as quickly as possible. But then I started actually trying to conceive of the rate of speed at which you're going to be traveling and a bunch of cars going that fast or faster around you, and how much these guys train to do that. And no, I'm pretty sure I would just crash out immediately. And I don't know if I'd make it a quarter of a lap, let alone an entire one.
You know, I mean, I do like driving, and I do like driving fast at times, but I don't think I could drive 200 miles an hour in those cars with other cars around. Maybe give me one car by myself, and I could maybe get up to 150, but I'd worry about those turns. I get worried. The older I get now with the family and kids, you worry more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an avid NASCAR watcher either. I'm not going to pretend to be, but I do know that there's more that goes into that than you would assume just sitting at home on your couch or us at the KDKA studios. So yes, I mean, there's a reason why these guys are considered athletes, even though they are sitting in a car instead of running, jumping, skating down a rink. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot harder than it looks.
All right, well, speaking of athletes, the Pirates full squad reports tomorrow in Bradenton. Pitchers and catchers were there for a week right now. I don't know about you, but there's not too much excitement, optimism. I feel like with the fan base, I feel like for me, they haven't done anything. Their payroll is actually smaller than it was last year, where they had 76 wins, over under 77. I just don't understand. I don't understand how you can be excited. You can be excited with Paul Skeens, right? But that's it. That's not baseball.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that's really the only thing that's drawing me in as somebody who covers the Steelers year-round and really looks at the Pirates more of just from the outside. And, yeah, I mean, I know Skeens spoke the other day, but even he, I mean, as electric as he is when he's on the mound and you feel like you want to be sitting there either at PNC Park or in front of a TV every time he takes the ball to make a start, he's not really a loquacious speaker. He doesn't drive a whole lot of hype with his words. He's buttoned up to say the least, and I guess that's kind of better than the opposite sometimes, right? Who was it? Isaiah Kiner-Falefa when after they acquired him last year at the trade deadline, he predicted they were going to make the postseason or win 100 games or something like that in 2025. And I mean, I think those things kind of ring hollow. They go in one ear and out the other, or if anything, they just become a meme really to people who are a lot more realistic than that. But yeah, I don't think there's anything backing up that kind of unbridled optimism for this team. Just a lot of on paper moves that seem like shuffling the deck chairs.
Speaking of optimism, we covered a guy like that every single week over at Steelers headquarters.
I know who you're going to say.
Yeah, and he could be coming back. I mean, there's a report out there today that potentially the Giants could be in the mix. I mean, it seems like it's just basically three teams, I would think, for Russell Wilson.
Well, I mean, it seems that way right now in mid-February, but it is going to be a fascinating quarterback carousel. I mean, it always is anymore in the NFL, right? Like, you've got Aaron Rodgers, who's now going to be on the open market. Does anybody want to kind of put up with the sideshow of him along with a declining physical ability that I think we all witnessed? I mean, he threw 2 picks to Beanie Bishop last year at Acrisure Stadium. Not both his fault, but he struggled for the most part, and that's why the Jets were ready to move on there. What's going to go on with Kirk Cousins in Atlanta? Is he suddenly transitioning into backup territory? You've got a lot of interesting players in this draft at quarterback, but really only 2 that have the general consensus of having first-round grades on them. So I mean, you never know what's going to happen here. For Russell Wilson, yes, there are the connections. He visited the Giants right before he first came to meet with the Steelers last year in free agency. He's got his old Seattle coach, Pete Carroll, out there in Vegas. Is that a feature or a bug for those two? I don't know. It depends on if they mended fences. But yes, he always was trying to speak it into existence that he'd be back for a second season with the Steelers, but we will see if they share that sentiment within the organization.
You know, you brought up Aaron Rodgers, and I'm going to continue that conversation with him about him coming up after the break, but we're going to take your phone calls. We got to go to break. 412-575-2600 is the number. Back in a couple minutes. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracted Nightly Sports Call. This is our GMC tweet of the night from the Pittsburgh Pirates. They officially signed Tommy Pham to a one-year contract for the 2025 season. That does not excite me. I don't even know if the good version of Tommy Pham excites me. Brian, I don't know about you. I mean, all I can think about is him getting into a fight over fantasy football and Jock Peterson out in the outfield. I mean, that's the only thing. He was a Pirates killer at one point with St. Louis, but he's 37 years old. I mean, come on. I mean, what are they doing? Just if you're going to sign guys like Tommy Pham and Adam Frazier, just go with the younger guys.
I'll tell you what excites me about Tommy Pham. I mean, you alluded to it there with he's kind of become a bit of a punchline in Major League Baseball circles because of that dust up with Jock Peterson over fantasy football. I wonder if either of them had Russell Wilson as their quarterback that season. But no, I mean, it goes beyond that. It seems like he's a pretty fiery guy, not necessarily disliked by teammates. And in fact, I think a lot of people have called him a good clubhouse presence, especially now as a veteran. But I want to say when he was in San Diego, there was some tension at times between him and fans who weren't really happy with the product that was being put on the field. And boy, if you can't really look the other way or stay above the fray with that kind of stuff here in Pittsburgh, especially with the way things have been going lately for the team that he plays for now, then there could really be some fireworks.
All right, don't forget about our live poll here tonight. Do you think you can complete one lap in a NASCAR race? Just scan the QR code. By the way, I just got a tweet from Michael Rockman who says, how do you go to the bathroom in a NASCAR? That's interesting. I think I asked Steve. I asked Steve this, one of our producers, that yesterday, and you just go right there in your pants, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's basically the same kind of idea as if you're an offensive lineman out there in the NFL and you know that you might be in the midst of a 12-play drive right now. Obviously, you're going to hold it for as long as you can, but I'm guessing sometimes even the best laid plans go awry. So, yes, I think there's a lot of stuff that you wouldn't want to do if you were driving around yourself or maybe playing pickup basketball, but you got to do it if you're a pro athlete.
Just scan the QR code. Looking forward to hearing the final results at the end. All right, we'll switch a little bit. You brought up Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is probably in, a similar situation as Russell Wilson was last year. So you can get him at a deal.
One guy very positive, one guy very doom and gloom.
I mean, it would be exact opposite of guys that we talk to, right? Like, he's Mr. Positivity, and this is guy Mr. Negativity. I mean,
Rich, did you ever have any days when you went in the Steelers locker room last season and we have great jobs, we love them, they're a lot of fun, but did you ever have any days where you maybe weren't really feeling it, and then you saw Russ and you talked to Russ a little in one of those scrums and suddenly your spirits were lifted up?
Yeah, every player, every receiver was the greatest receiver that ever played the game every week. But anyways, Aaron Rodgers, like I said, a similar situation. So if you're going to build a team and you need a quarterback for a year, do you take a chance on him? But he does bring in a lot of baggage, and I don't know if I wouldn't want to deal with it. I don't know if the Steelers would want to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the kind of off-field distractions. I mean, I don't know if I'd call it drama, but you know that he's kind of got the built-in appearance on the TV show that he's going to do every week. He's going to be brutally honest at times. It would almost be a throwback to kind of the peak Ben Roethlisberger years where he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but he also kind of had carte blanche to say just about whatever he wanted, and we know that caused issues at times with teammates, sometimes high-profile ones like Antonio Brown. So, I mean, the Aaron Rodgers experience did not go the way the Jets were hoping. I'll put my hand up. I admit I was duped. I thought they were going to be a playoff team when he went there, and it did not come together. The young players and the savvy old veteran at quarterback, that would still be what you'd be trying to capture. If you're the Steelers in this case or any other team that wants to sign him this offseason, is you'd say, hey, we think we have a lot of talent elsewhere on the roster. He's not that far removed from an MVP season in 2020, I think it was. maybe it's still in there and he doesn't have to be Superman and put everything on his shoulders. He can kind of be a game manager, but still make some big throws from time to time, and he knows how to win. I just don't think I saw it from him in 2024.
Well, Vegas has the Steelers as what, odds-on favorite to get Aaron Rodgers. I mean, what do you think?
And Kirk Cousins and a lot of guys, because they've got so many holes on the roster, especially offensively.
Do you think it's a real possibility? Would Tomlin even entertain this? And then if you bring a guy like Aaron Rodgers in, what would that do with the Steelers' offense? Because you know he's not going to want to run Arthur Smith's offense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's probably some mutual connections there between Rodgers and Arthur Smith for as long as both guys have been in the NFL. He is such a polarizing personality that it's just as likely that maybe Art Rooney II sitting there saying we wouldn't go anywhere near him. He's radioactive. It's hard to say, because as much as you could say that on paper, hey, don't touch him with a 10-foot pole, where else are you going to go at your quarterback position, especially if you don't run it back with Justin Fields? I mean, I think we kind of saw what the ceiling was with Russell Wilson by the end of last season, and I wouldn't be sitting here pounding the table for Aaron Rodgers either, but things do get pretty bleak if you start to look to the free agents that are going to be out there, some of the trade options, because it's an entire league of teams looking to find that guy under center. And if you don't have the franchise quarterback, you're trying to make big moves, sometimes desperate moves, to go and get it.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that about Russell Wilson, though, towards the end of last year, that maybe he was difficult in his situation in Denver. And you mentioned it's bleak. I mean, I don't see there's really a trade market. Maybe Matthew Stafford, but then you'd have to give something up for him. In free agency, I think Justin Fields is number one right now. You would think him or Russell Wilson. The draft, there's maybe one or two guys that have a first-round grade.
Sam Darnold, I mean, he kind of turned back into a pumpkin at the end of that season.
Yeah,
for the Vikings and the regular season finale that was huge for them, and then the playoff game. So I mean, yeah, it is. It's not a great offseason to be looking for a quarterback, much like 2022, the last time the Steelers were pretty obviously looking for a quarterback.
All right, let's go out to Uncle Mark out in Virginia Beach. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good, thanks for calling.
Yeah. First I want to say great show, and hey, saying hi to my nephew Brian. So my question is, well, first of all, I want to say I can complete that lap or two or three in NASCAR.
Going 200 miles an hour?
Oh yeah, that's the way I grew up, driving in Pittsburgh and then driving in where I am now. It's, if you're not driving 100 miles an hour down the interstates around here, you can't get anywhere. So I think going from 100 to 200 won't be an issue. Ask Brian; he knows how I drive. But anyway, so my question is, you know, there's so many people calling for Tomlin's head, which I don't think that's what we need to do. But my question is, how much is on Tomlin, and how much is on Rooney on what we're doing with these moves and what we're not doing, and why we're stagnant with doing the same thing year after year, and where's the Steelers going to go with this in the next year or two? I mean, are we going to is it going to be just status quo, which we can't get over the hump? You know, I'm just trying to get your thoughts on what we're doing here.
All right, Mark, a lot to unfold there, but the grass isn't always greener on the other side for Mike Tomlin, right? I mean, if you get rid of him now, you might not have a coach in here. I know a lot of people want change, but at some point, you know, Brian, how long is it going to be before they feel pressured into making a decision? And, you know, to some of your other points, you know, Mr. Rooney wants to run a certain program, right? Wants to run the organization a certain way. He wants his offense to look a certain way. And I think that they all kind of follow that guideline, right? But I think ultimately, if you have someone to blame, it has to be Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I mean, hey, thanks to my uncle for watching and calling in. I know he is a huge Steelers fan, and a lot of Steelers fans are sitting here feeling this year after year. And then you hear from all the parties involved, and it doesn't seem like the tweaks and the changes that might get you a different outcome are ever being made. And I just think if you don't change at the top with your head coach, which we understand by now how the team president feels about him, that Tomlin gives the organization a certain floor year in and year out. You at least know for the most part what you're going to get in terms of being competitive and be knocking on the door to get into the postseason or in there, albeit with a first-round exit every time they've been there recently. But if you're not going to change that, then you've got to do something else somewhat drastic. And to me, it doesn't look like the coordinators are going anywhere at this stage of the offseason. You can't run it back with the same quarterback who was presiding over that 5-game losing streak. And I do think, you know, to the question, Art Rooney II leaves so much of it to his head coach. That's why he pays him the big bucks. That's why he believes in hiring him and keeping him around in the first place. But, I mean, they do need to lean on Omar Khan as their general manager, too. He's got to have the pulse of what's going on around the league, where they can find value. They tried to do that with both of those quarterbacks last year, and it didn't bring them anything better than 10-7 in a first-round loss.
Yeah, I agree with you. You can't run it back with Russell Wilson. There'd be a lot of disappointment, and it would be the same old, basically. At least with Justin Fields, it gives you maybe some new optimism. All right, we're going to take a break. 412-575-2600. Back in a couple minutes. Let's go out to John in Washington. How you doing, John? John, you there? All right, John's out. I think he wanted to talk about the Penguins, but at least I wanted to bring up this Four Nations face-off. I really like what they did. I think this was by accident. They found something successful in the NHL. I like this way better than some phony all-star game or whatever you're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, everything I'm seeing on social media tonight is people complaining about what the NBA is trying to do with their all-star format. They've gotten like younger players trying to prove themselves in here against the established veterans who obviously aren't going to play that hard in this setting. And it is very difficult in sports today to thread that needle. But yes, I mean, I do think there's been some more broad appeal and interest in this NHL Four Nations deal because you get different countries involved and you at least have a clear, obvious rooting interest.
I know you can't do it the Olympic year, but is this something you think the NHL will do year in and year out?
Yeah, I think if this goes well and it continues to have success and people are invested in it, then yeah, absolutely. They're never going to turn down a little bit more interest in hockey, especially right now when there's a little bit of a sports desert.
All right, thanks a lot, Brian. I appreciate it. You'll join me tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown at 11:30 on KDKA. Thanks for being on. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys make the switch over to KDKA News right now.